Welcome. This is MoneyHeart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing It's Never About the Money. My guest is Sarah Leslie. Sarah spent the first 20 years of her career working from the therapy chair as the director of clinical services over a 150-bed residential facility. After a dramatic shift in her own life, she pivoted to the virtual space, allowing her the freedom to work from anywhere. Now, she helps highly motivated individuals become strategically liberated CEO over their whole lives, including the way they create money. She stands out from others in her field, and she is fiercely committed to her own personal growth so that she can continue to push past her own limits. She loves nature, being near the water and the mountains, cooking delicious meals, and having thought-provoking conversations. Sarah, welcome to Money Heart.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be really cool. As I was reading your bio, I just thought about loves nature near the water and the mountains, and you reminded me of when I used to live in Santa Barbara, California, because there were like foothills right there and beach right there, and you could just drive between the two, and it was amazing. So
That
that's
is so true. Yes, I love it.
yes. So, if you're ever looking for a spot and you hit lotto, I recommend that place.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Or if
Good
you generate
recommendation.
if you generate all the money that you desire to go there, I'm sure you could make it happen. You don't have to hit lottery to make that happen. Um,
Absolutely. I actually know firsthand you can do it at a very reasonable price.
yes,
So, more
yes.
secrets for that if people want to know, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, maybe we can circle that around at the end. So like that would actually be really kind of cool. We'll kind of talk about our topic and then weave in the secrets for living someplace expensive on a low price. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. I'm literally putting it in my notes so that I don't forget because I will get swept up in our conversation and forget. Um,
Okay.
First thing I want to say, I love your title, which, CEO identity artist. That is just the coolest title. Um,
So fun.
so much fun. I know there's a story behind how you got there because we mentioned this kind of dramatic shift. What happened? What took you from what seems to me like it would be a successful career as a therapist and made you just kind of shift spaces and change? Tell us the story.
Yeah. So the sort of background to my life is like playing the good girl role, right?
Mm,
Doing all the right things, checking all the boxes, and in short, I really wanted to help people. And so in high school, my mom was helping me like figure out what was I going to do when I grow up, right?
yeah.
As I was getting ready for college. And I watched a series on Dateline, I believe it was. And it was about this boy who was about the same age as me at the time in sixth grade, who was out on the streets of Philadelphia helping homeless people. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. He's actually like out there at 12 doing something to really help people. And so I got it into my head that I wanted to do something like that. Of course, I had no idea what that would look like for myself, but I
Mhm.
knew for sure I wanted to do something like that. And so I journeyed into the world of social work and did all the right things, checked all the right boxes, got a master's degree, all the things. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm like out here literally helping people change their lives. And I am making maybe 30,000,
Mhm.
which was like at the time was really like amazing just to be making any money. But as I grew, right, and I got older, I was like,
Right.
this is not enough money for me to really live the way I want to live in a really good lifestyle. And I was like, I
Mm.
can't figure this out the way that people are telling me, like it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
I love this. We're going to have all kinds of money puns, I'm
All
sure,
kinds
here
of
in our
things that don't
conversation.
add up. And yeah, yes, it's yes. But
Yeah.
I love being funny, so it's all good.
So it didn't add up. And I was like, I gotta like figure something else out. So as I journeyed through, I kept looking for like, well, how can I make a shift to be able to also make a little bit more money? Because I should be able to make a little bit more money, right? I'm doing amazing things too.
Yes.
So going through all the pieces, right? I just got to a point where I was just about turning 40, so maybe like 37, 38. And I was like, man, I've like figured out now how to be making probably four times that
Okay.
at
Yes.
a treatment center, right? Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
very happy about that shift. But I was working so hard. I was killing myself. It's just
Mm.
really the simple way I talk about it is I was working so hard. I was sleeping with my cell phone, right? As the director, it was really like my job to put out fires and ensure the safety of everyone everyone that was there at the center, and then also my employees.
Okay,
And so
so
it
let me
just
just
got to
make
be
sure,
where I was
just
like,
because you said
yeah, yeah,
something,
yeah.
I don't want to gloss over this.
Okay.
Um, Sleeping with your cell phone.
Right.
So literally putting the phone in bed with you so that if someone called, like, oh, right under your pillow. So if
Yeah.
someone called, you would wake up
Yeah.
day or
Yeah.
night,
And
whatever
I
time.
remember the moment where I shifted from the cell phone was on my nightstand,
Mhm.
right? Because that's like normal these days, which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think it's actually good for us, but it's normal.
yeah.
It's on my nightstand to where I was literally like, I'm just gonna shove it right here under my pillow so that I'm ready for the next phone call I get that I have to like put out the fire.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
This wasn't like I fell asleep and the phone, I was holding it and I fell asleep and
Mm-mm.
if this was a conscious decision of I'm worried I'm going to miss a call from work. So I'm going to move the phone from the nightstand to the bed so that I don't miss anything so I can problem solve and put out fires at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly.
That's pretty intense. Like that's hardcore. Like you were all in.
I was all in. And, I mean, I think just perspective wise, the people around me were operating more or less at that level as well. And the
Mm,
people at other facilities, similar, were also operating at that level. So it was very like normal. Again,
yeah.
whatever we spend our time around becomes very normal, right? So at
Hmm.
the time, I definitely had a flag that went up that was like, I really don't like this. And this is just the way it is, right?
Oh,
That famous last lines that really kills the dream is this is just the way it is. It can't change. So circling through that, I just started to slowly decline in those like few years as I'm approaching my late 30s. And I'm like, this is not okay. And something has to shift because
yeah.
my mentality is going in the direction of like, I'm not excited about getting out of bed anymore. And I'm becoming aware of that reality. And I'm the professional again, right? Like, wait a minute, I'm the professional. I'm helping other people figure their life out. And I'm feeling like I don't really even want to be here, kind of, thoughts.
Yes. Yeah.
So I knew there
That
was a serious problem.
Yes, it's so interesting when you have that incongruity. When you are the one who's supposed to know how to do this, and then you're totally failing at doing it. And so you're like, great, I'm doing this at work and telling everyone to do this. And when I go home, I'm not doing any of the things. Just like, oh, and that really
Yeah,
weighs on you. Like you start
it
feeling
does.
comfortable about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can remember moments going in to speak with other, folks up at my level. And I would say, like, I feel like I have this weight, like 100 pounds, like on my back. And I
Hmm.
would try to like work through it. So that incongruency that you're talking about, right? That's like part of that weight that I was feeling and literally emotionally carrying around with me.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what made the shift for you? So we're getting to it. Like you're like, okay,
Yeah.
at some point, but usually for most people, there's like a dramatic, like a click, and they're like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I have a few, right,
okay,
of those
okay,
major clicks. So
yeah,
I'll just share the one that I talk about the most is I was laying down in yoga class one night
hmm,
and after work and the day was just like settling in on me. And at the end of the class, there's the 2 minute rest
yeah,
posture
yes.
and the room is
Shavasana, is
silent,
that it?
Shavasana,
Yes.
and
Okay.
there's
Yes.
50 people in the room.
Oh
So it's
wow. Okay.
packed
Okay.
and it's dark. The lights are out. And we'll say out of nowhere, but like I don't actually believe anything comes out of nowhere. There's always a reason. There's always like a
Right.
process that's happening, even if it's like running in the background.
Right.
I start crying uncontrollably.
Oh.
Just uncontrollably, right? And I know we haven't known each other that long, but I'm sure you can see a little bit of like, oh, that doesn't really strike me as something that would happen to you very often, where you're
Right.
just kind of crying all the
Yeah,
time, you
you
know?
do not seem like the weepy random crying type. No, I don't perceive
Not
you
at
to be
all.
someone that's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna have a breakdown in the supermarket. Like that's not
Right.
you.
Like
Yeah.
hard no.
Yeah.
So that's happening.
Hard
And
no.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what is happening right now? Like,
Yeah.
it didn't even feel like myself. And that was really like the aha. It was like, whoa, something is happening that doesn't feel like it's me. I really need to pay attention.
Yeah.
So I got up off of that mat and I was like, nope, got to make a change because it's like I keep going in this direction. And it really, the way I talk about it, it's like a slow death. You know, when you think about it, it's like
Mhm.
you're continuing to put yourself in a situation that your mind has created for sure, and the circumstances to some degree are not conducive to living, right? They're actually conducive to dying. So it really just depends how fast you're dying. And my rate was like I had sped up significantly, and
Mm.
people were starting to comment like, "Oh, you seem like you've lost some weight." Or you don't seem like as, colorful, those types of things. So
Yeah.
I just got up off that mat and I was like, no, this is not worth it. Like I have to change and I have to change my circumstances and I need to figure this out. So I put in my notice the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm so amazed by it was so bad that other people were noticing. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, we have that kind of internal thing. You're like, it's not going too well. I feel like we feel the stuff. But you got to the point where people were actually telling you, are you okay? Like they're seeing
Right.
you're losing weight. They're seeing you're looking like gray or green or, all those colors that we're not supposed to be. You should be like nice and pink and tan and all that, that kind of
Exactly.
thing. And if people are just going, are you all right? Because there's like, that's a lot that you really
It
went
is.
far. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I did. And I'll just say for me specifically, I was very much like full of, like I am now, full of life,
Yeah.
ready to go, like, let's do this, all the things. So the shift was dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happened? You put in your
So
notice.
I put in my notice and I gave like, a 2 month notice. So there was no like, there
Yeah.
was no bad blood, we'll say. It was
Right.
just a realization of like, I have to do something different.
Yeah.
So from there, it was like, okay, cool. I need to, one, really take care of myself,
Mm-hmm.
refresh, rejuvenate,
Mm-hmm.
take a moment, all the things. And then I was like, I want to continue helping people. I love helping people. Now is the perfect time to actually be able to help people in the way that I really want to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a matter of time before I was like, okay, I got to prioritize, really figure out what's important to me, what I want to be doing. I wanted to be traveling. I had talked about traveling like forever. And I had
Right.
talked about doing, various things about more time outside, more time in nature, the beach, all these things. And I wasn't doing them.
Mm.
So it was like time to start doing them.
Yeah. What are we waiting for? We,
What are we waiting
right?
for? Yeah.
Yes.
All the things, right? All the
Yeah.
things that people wait for. They're waiting for their whole life to be in order before they can do what they really want to be doing.
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, might that be backwards?
Yes, exactly.
Maybe if you did the things you really wanted to do, your life would come together.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Which
yeah.
really ties in I think I want to just pull in like the theme, right? It's never about the
Yes.
money
Yes.
because for me, I had gotten to a point where I was like, man, I'm making over like I'm finally hit the 6 figure mark.
Yep.
And I'm like really excited about that and loving having the resources to just be like, cool, you guys want to go out to dinner? Yes, definitely. I was always very intentional about the money. Like it was never like, ah, it was always
Right.
very intentional about the money.
Yeah.
But I was very much like a saver and, ooh, I got to really be careful about the money because
Mm-hmm.
I just had this much. But then I had this much, and there was still a lot of those same thoughts going on in my brain, even though it was like, oh, cool, I can go like use the money for this or for that. But then the idea of like leaving my job to like do something radically different, oh, that sounded very scary.
Yeah.
But that is the time when I figured out it's not about the money. because here I was making significantly more, but I was actually significantly less happy.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like I've got the money now. I'm still not feeling the thing. Like
Right.
I'm not happy. I'm not functioning well. I'm just kind of moving towards dying like that. Yeah, that not doing the stuff that you would love to do that's important to you, like kind of missing out on all the life part.
Yes.
So yeah, so what did you do? How did you I mean, you put in the notice.
Put in my
Your
notice.
2 months come up. Now what?
And I was like, okay. So I started to get introduced to coaching, specifically the coaching space,
Hmm.
through, well, a couple of different avenues. I mean, I dove really deep into self-help, personal development. I mean, I was a self-help junkie up until this point, as it was, but I went really deep into allowing someone else to actually come into my space, come into my world, into my mind, and poke around in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
had done therapy for sure. As a therapist, I had done therapy, and at different periods when I needed it, going through divorce, various things.
Yeah.
But I had not done coaching in the sense of like, where do you want to get to?
Right.
Right. I did a lot of cleaning up the past and sorting out my feelings and managing of my emotions and that kind of thing in therapy. But I had never really looked at, well, where do you actually want to be? And how do you actually get to do that? That
Yes.
part I had always done on my own. So
Yeah.
I really jumped into that space, like I do most things, all in,
All
where it
it
was
like
like, let's
in.
do this.
Yes.
Yeah, and become
Yes.
like fully immersed. I used to
Yeah.
call it obsessed. Now I call it immersed.
No, totally immersed. I love that word. Much better. Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did all the things and I just put myself out there in various spaces with very specific intentional people that I
Hmm.
was like, I trust these people. I like where they're at. Help me get there.
Yeah.
So I started changing my identity, which is where the playful term CEO identity artist comes from. So I started realizing, like, wow, I'm literally changing who I am. I'm changing my identity. I'm no longer this person who's like, just to keep it in context with the story, who's willing to do any work to be able to make money that feels really good. I'm no longer that person, right?
Yeah.
And that was like a process to go through, a transformation to get to, okay, I'm actually a person who is going to do what I love to do and make really nice money as a result of it.
Yes. And do both.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm feeling like it's easy for us to say, oh, you can just change your mindset and then you can do what you want to do and make great money and it's awesome. And
Right.
somebody out there listening right now is probably like, what
Yeah.
mindset?
Yeah.
I don't think
I
so.
love it.
It's not
Totally.
possible.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's totally not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that easy, right?
Right.
Actually,
Right.
I dyed my hair hot pink for those of you that are listening. I dyed my hair hot pink not that long ago. And
Hmm.
I wrote this whole like post around how free I felt to be able to actually get to the point where I could dye my hair hot pink. And so
Yeah.
one of the comments, which, no judgment towards this person, but it was such a beautiful awareness to pause for, where she said, so does that mean if I go out and I dye my hair hot pink, I too will feel the way that you do? And it's like,
Mm.
no, of course not, because we would all be dyeing our hair pink. I mean, come on, in a heartbeat, right?
Right.
So no, it's like the end, right? The hot pink hair is the result,
Yeah.
right, of doing that inner work in this middle ground, as I
Hmm.
call it, right? It's like the gap in between where we're at and where we want to be. There's like work to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Actual work to be done. So in this concept of, it's not about the money, it's what is it about?
Yeah.
Want to let you tell that.
Okay. So the simple way to think about it is like our thoughts create our feelings. And then we have various things that then go on in the brain related to making decisions that result in certain actions, certain results. And so people want to get really stuck on, it's about the money, right? The reason I can't, we'll just stick with my story, the same theme to make it coherent. The reason I can't leave my job is because they're paying me really good money, right? Even though I'm now not happy, right? And I was actually way more happy when I was probably making like 60,000. So in my mind, I stayed at that environment, right? Because it's not really the job. It's really, I was not a fit for the environment. So I stayed there because my mind said, you can't leave because it's a really good paycheck.
Yeah.
So I was making it be about the money when really it's about my fear that there isn't another job out there or another way to make money that would ultimately give me that same result, right? And so I'm not actually looking for money because money is just paper, right?
Yep.
Money doesn't mean anything unless you and I agree it means something.
Right.
So it's really about my thoughts around what I was feeling about needing the money versus really reprioritizing things to say like, no, like my health and my mental well-being is far more important, one. And two, of course, there's another way to make money, right? Or another job, or, you know, however the things go together, there's another way to make the money.
Yeah. It's so easy to get stuck there. And just be in that, well, I can't because. Well, I can't
all the time.
because. And not be able to open up to, oh, that might not be so bad if I did this other thing. Or I'm not sure why I need to worry about that because it's like finding evidence of other options that might work and even being willing to consider those other options rather than just saying, nope, can't because.
Yes.
So what are some clues that we can look for in our own language and in our own thoughts if we want to know if we're falling into the trap? Like, how do we spot that other than people coming up to us and being like, are you okay? You look sick, like that should be a clue, although it might be one that gets ignored, but it's like pretty clear. And we know like if you're sleeping with your phone, you probably are in too deep, right? Unless you're happy doing that. Like if that's really fulfilling for you and you love fixing that emergency at the middle of the night, then you're like, yes, okay, cool. But if that's not your jam, that could be a clue. But what's some of that internal wording that you find comes up with your clients that they say to themselves that you're like, did we spot that? No, maybe.
Yeah, totally. So I think we've already identified quite a few super helpful ones, but just to recap some of those, it's like if your mind is like, I can't do that because, usually if you say I can't do that because, it's about fear, right?
Yeah.
And definitely specific to money, if it's the mindset of like, that's too expensive, I can't afford that, that doesn't make sense for me to buy. All of those things are really revealing fear. And underneath that fear, right, is the not enough. And the shame monster is really what I call it. In my work and in my own personal work, it always comes back to this piece around shame and that fear of not being enough, not having enough, and then the things that we end up doing as a result of it.
Yeah.
One of my clients calls, for her specifically, she calls her thoughts around money the money monster. And so she talks about it like her fears around money. And when they show up, she'll refer to it and say, oh, there's that money monster
the
showing
money
up.
Monster. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's just the red flag to like, no, it's not about the money. It's about my fear, right? And what I'm making the money mean, right? Because in that scenario with my job, I was making the money my safety, right? That I had this money, I had this paycheck coming in, which is sort of an ironic twist to it there, just to quickly throw this in. We really never know what's going to happen. And so as I was really viewing the money as my safety, it wasn't not that much longer. I don't remember exactly, but somewhere under 6 months, where people's paychecks actually stopped coming.
Oh, wow. At your
So
job?
it was just at that location.
At that
Yeah.
location. Oh, okay.
So it's just such a great, like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's never about the money, right? Because
Yeah.
my mind is zeroed in on that's my safety, that you're like there handing me this paycheck.
Hmm.
And then I actually had that tangible experience where people were like, oh, I didn't get my paycheck this week. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's never about the money. It's about my fear and what I'm making the money mean to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's basically it wasn't as safe as you thought it was. You thought that check was never ending and it's automatically going to be there, and then you find out, oh, wait, maybe not.
Right.
So what is it
Yes.
really? What's the actual underlying thing about it? Is it always fear?
Well, there's debate, right? And I don't think the debate, it's not really a worthy debate to spend too much time on,
Okay.
just in general. But I think it goes back to shame. That's where I think it goes back to, is that
Okay.
sense of not enough, right? People
Mm.
are very motivated to make sure they have enough. The subconscious mind, it's like the program. I love talking about things in the terms of program just because we're so technology based with
Yeah.
computers and cell phones. There's like this little program running in the background that most of the time nobody has any awareness of, no present awareness of. It's like this
Yep.
little program that's running in the back of your phone that's like, you don't even know it's there until you're like, wait a minute, what is going on? My phone, the memory says it's full, and I don't understand why it's full. Right. And then
Right.
you go in and you check it out and you're like, oh my gosh, I've had this program running. No wonder I can't open up these other really cool, awesome things. It's
Yes.
just like that. The subconscious is running this program in the background that says, I will make sure that you are safe and comfortable at all costs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's just always there running. So if you're not consciously aware of it, and even for those of us that are consciously aware of it, if you don't have a practice that you're regularly checking in with yourself,
Yeah.
right, or surrendering to someone else in a partnership where they're able to say, hey, I think you got that secret program running right now that's telling you like you can't do this really cool new idea you want to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hit the button, open that screen where you can close all the apps,
Exactly.
close the app
Exactly.
that's running,
Yes.
restart the phone, restart the brain, whatever it is you do to press, restart and clear out those things so you can go again and stop running that program. Yeah, I
Yes.
love that. I love that. So
Totally.
that's a great ideas if you have like some sort of a partner like that, and they don't have to be like a life partner. I mean, you could just be your person that you kind of check in with stuff about, that can like let you know, like listen to your story and go, I think you might be running the secret program. Do you want to check if that's open? And then you're like, oh yeah. Right? It's like, oh, that's the
Yes.
fear program. Oh,
Totally.
that's the shame program. Oh, yeah, okay. Cancel that program for now. What other kind of tips are there that we can use, if you have any, to sort of change our mindset or switch that off, or what can we do to pull out of this, and sort of start to reprogram that fear and
So, okay, a couple of other words to look at, and then I'll give
shame.
you the actual tidbit.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was actually just speaking with a friend who I was helping with some of these thoughts around money, where I was hearing him use the words, "It's so hard to make money." Right. And it takes a lot of time and effort to create wealth. Those were just two of the ones that I was hearing. And so it was like, let's shift that thought process into something that is actually going to help you get where you want to go, something that will serve your mind, right? Because he and I grew up with very similar background. And so we've been running that program, right? Again, in the background of it is so hard to make money,
Hmm.
even if we just zero in on that one. And so it's like, okay, cool. I'm 45. He's about 45. And it's like, let's just like recognize and be aware that belief has not served us well at all, because wouldn't you know, it's been really hard to make money for
Uh-huh.
these 45 years,
Oh,
right?
oh, what do you know?
Yeah, it actually makes sense, right? So really looking at what the mind spends time thinking on,
Hmm.
right? So for me personally, I have a regular practice where I spend time in the morning and I write out what are the primary thoughts that my brain keeps wanting to like go over and over and over. And I write them down on paper. which is just another way to like bring them outside of yourself
Mm-hmm.
and then be able to see them in front of you and reflect on them. So that's one of the skills that I would say, one of the immediate things you can use is literally just take a few minutes when you have like a loop going. I wouldn't expect people to necessarily start a practice. Although if you're ready for starting a practice 100% every morning, write
Yeah.
down those primary thoughts that are like around in your brain. It will
Right.
change your life completely. And if you're just at the point where you're like, okay, I notice I have some program running every now and again that causes me to like spin out, cool. Sit down and write out those primary thoughts because literally just having them reflect back to you gives you a moment to stop, reflect, and then simply asking, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a profound moment. It's such a simple thing. And I love giving just really as simple as possible, especially on a podcast, as people
Yes.
are listening. It's like literally write down the thought, it's so hard to make money. And then asking, is that true? And giving yourself a moment to just sit with that and consider it. And then you can certainly look for ways in which it's not true, right? One of the
Right.
ways that we prove whether or not a hypothesis is true or false is look for ways in which we could prove that it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Look for evidence. Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 I like this idea of putting it out. Like I feel like that, sometimes when I have something that I want to do, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that thing. Oh yeah. And I just keep circling back. Oh yeah, I got to do that thing, do that thing. And then if I go put it on my calendar, it's like, okay, great. I'll get to it when it comes up on the calendar because that's where I look to see what it is I'm doing right now. So same idea. It's like if it keeps rattling around in there, if you just get it out,
Yes.
then you don't have to keep rehearsing it. It's
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. And
And
then what I would add to that is if you keep putting it out, but you're putting it out with like people who buy in, right? I call them
oh,
co-signers.
oh, cosigner. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That
You're
could be a
reading me.
problem. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
totally with you. Yeah, don't get anybody to co-sign on that philosophy. You do not need backup to reinforce the one that maybe is not serving you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like writing it down and or with someone who's able to hear you and then ask back, is that really true?
Mm-hmm.
Super
Yes.
important. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to throw that in there because I know a lot of people voice the same thing over and over again. They're just doing it to like multiple people, right? Which
Right.
ultimately gets those multiple people to agree with them in some
Right.
form or fashion.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well, they'll do it until they find the person that does agree, and then they keep going back to that person because they're like, "Oh, great, somebody thinks what I think. That's excellent."
definitely.
You're like, "Oh no." Seek out the person who said, "Really? I'm not sure. It seems kind of easy to me." Like that's your
Yeah,
new buddy, right? Like,
totally.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Or that's the person I'm hanging with. I'm hanging with the person that's like making money is really easy. Um,
Yes.
then you got to decide what to do with it. So let's move on to a
Exactly.
new problem, which is also
Yes.
probably easy because you think about what your priorities are and you figure out how you'd love to be, and then you rock on. So yeah, none of this
Yeah.
is
So
hard.
finding that belief, like you said, making money is easy,
Yeah.
right? And also that there's plenty of money for everyone, right? That
Yeah.
there's like an endless supply available. And here's the thing, right? People want to like, oh, well, is that really true? And oh, there's only so much money that's printed, and all the things that people want to come up with. Why?
Mhm.
Because they're so rooted in fear. Naturally, they want to like disagree. But the
Sure.
thing is we're believing this other way without really questioning it. And we're only believing this other way, not questioning it, because we've known it forever. So
Hmm.
it just is normal, right? So coming over here, if you lean into the essence of there's an endless supply, the essence of it is like, today it's money. Years and years ago it was silver, gold. We've exchanged all types of things for services
Sure.
in the course of our, existence. So it's really leaning into that essence
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
there's an endless supply.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there is that we can all, it's totally abundant. We can all benefit. It's going to be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that thought and those types of thoughts are just simply going to serve your brain way more than the thought around it's so hard or it's going to take forever or all the things, right?
Yeah.
So what your
Yeah.
mind spends time thinking on, you literally create more of that thing.
Right. So you might as well create the thing you want instead of spending lots of time on the thing you don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's
Yes.
circle back to the secrets of living in a really expensive place for less expensive if you want to. I like would love to hear your quick tips on
I
that.
love it. I love that you remembered. Okay, so
I made a note. Okay,
uh
let me just be completely transparent. I did not remember. I got totally wrapped up in our money discussion and our mind stuff, and I'm like, ooh, I think I'm gonna go do this exercise because I want to see what garbage I still have to work on because there's lots that I've gotten out, right? Like I've worked through so many things, but I'm sure there's still something else in there or some old slide deck that's gonna get dropped in every once in a
yeah,
while. And
totally.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch for it. And next time that happens, I'm getting it out and I'm putting it somewhere else. I'm like, okay, so circle file that, right? Trash. Get rid of
Nice.
that one. And
Yes.
here's where I'm replacing it with because you got to put something else in. But yes, full transparency, I was sort of totally caught up in our topic, but I put a note in my thing and it says secrets, living and inexpensive. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I'm sitting here like, what does that mean? And then I remembered, oh yeah, we had a thing to talk about. So we were circling back. I want to know your best tips for living someplace expensive, even if you are on a budget.
Okay. So, in all of this, one of the key persons that has really helped me in my own journey
Mhm.
is actually my first husband. It has a beautiful story in the background of it. Anybody wants to hear, feel free to reach out to me. And so he re entered my life at exactly the right moment, right? Like, no coincidences, and helped coach me very informally, coach me through a lot of those shifts that I talked about here in my story. And at the very same time, he was going through his own transformation and traveling cross country. And
Mhm.
he had decided to go super minimalist
Mhm.
and do the van life.
Oh, okay.
And so he vanned across country, had all these amazing experiences, toured around to all the places, and actually settled for a time in Santa Barbara.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, which why I was like, oh, synchronicities, I love it.
Yes.
And was able to live in this gorgeous, gorgeous place for a hot minute, very affordable. Enjoy the mountains. He'd like spend time sleeping up in the mountains and then spend time sleeping and just working at the beach,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, just like you had described. So,
Yeah.
there are definitely ways to do it. My current husband and I have also banned around the country. And
Oh,
again, same thing. You can do all kinds of travel and experience in the van lifestyle. So that's one
yeah.
of my tips.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And you can. It's really just choosing what's most important to you and then figuring out how can I do that thing rather than that it's so hard. Oh, you can't. Oh, it's not possible. I can't because like when we repeat those,
Yes.
then that's what happens. Versus
Yeah.
if you think, okay, so I want to live in the beach in the mountains and I picked out this spot that looks amazing. And how can I do that?
Yes.
How can I do it? And then just keep pondering how can you make it happen until, oh, look at that, I'm here. So,
Exactly. That's how my life has unfolded in the last 5 years. That's how
nice.
my life has unfolded.
Yeah.
Right. And I tweak it just to say like making a decision,
Hmm.
right? This is what I want. I make a decision and then I'm committed to moving in that direction, just like you said. And then the question is, how do I make it happen?
Yes.
So, yes, perfect.
I love it. I love it. What are you most excited about right now? Like what's going on in your world?
Oh, gosh. Personally, I'm excited about a lot of things. We're actually living in Nashville, which is like the thing I'm currently excited about.
Oh,
When this podcast airs out, it's entirely possible I could be living in California. So I'm excited
wow.
about that now. And I'll be excited about it when the podcast comes out in the new
So
year.
I grew up in California. So if you
Okay.
need anything, like 30 years, California. So if you like, where is this or how, like whatever,
Sweet.
just message me. And plus, I just love to hear stories from California. So tell me how it's going.
Perfect. I will definitely do that then.
Okay.
And in my business, I'm really focused on working one on one with folks.
Mhm.
And so, like, as people are hearing this type of topic and having these types of thoughts running around in their brain, if anyone desires to really get down in the dirty, as I call it, right, and really look at the nitty gritty of their own life and how this notion of it's never about the money actually applies to them specifically, they can reach out to me for a one on one consultation and they absolutely will have an understanding of it by the time we finish together.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. If Thank you as well to our listeners and viewers. If you want to get in touch with Sarah, her website is sarahlesliecoaching.com. You can find the link to book that consultation on there. She hangs out on her personal page on Facebook the most, and so you can just search for Sarah K. Leslie, and she should come right up. You'll see her right there, and you'll see her great title up there as well, of remind me again because I've lost identity artist.
Identity
There you
artist.
go, identity artist. I'm like scrolling through it, like I know I wrote that down. So yeah, so you'll see identity artist right next to it, so you'll know that you've got the right person. So you can send her a friend request on there. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. I'm a business optimization coach, financial educator, author, and speaker. You can find me and find out what I'm up to through my website, CamilleDiaz.com, and follow me on social media at Cam Unfiltered. Be sure to follow MoneyHeart at MoneyHeart Show, and our website is moneyheartshow.com. Sarah, would you like to share today's money mantra?
Absolutely. It's never about the money. It's about your beliefs about the money.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.